Over the past couple of years, we've seen a lot of fans getting very upset and very much critical over the sequel trilogy movies based on what Kathleen Kennedy allowed both J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson to do and or forced them to do in certain scenarios. It was really a mixture of many different things that even J.J. Abrams came forward with, as he has been a little bit more vocal about his experience on the set of both Episode 9 and Episode 7. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing that a lot of fans have been very much, excited about is exactly what John and Dave are currently developing together as a team, along with George Lucas in the mix, really kind of preparing this Mandoverse and how it's really going to expand to multiple surrounding spin-off shows and how it's going to take a lot of elements from Star Wars Legends that has never been done before. And I think that's the thing to look forward to the most, is how John and Dave are really utilizing a lot of Legends content coming into, of course, the current Disney canon and everything that comes in between. Now, the thing about Bob Iger is, we've talked about this multiple times already, of how his new idea of the roadmap is to focus on Star Wars movies again, making sure that Star Wars movies are going to be the main focus instead of just Star Wars TV shows, and really kind of just expanding on top of all of that. Now that brings us to exactly what Bob Iger recently greenlit and how it has a lot to do with resetting the Skywalker Saga. However, it's not what you think. So let's elaborate and get right into it all. Now, with that being all said and done, with many new Star Wars projects being worked on at the same exact time, both Favreau and Filoni are getting ready to do impossible things with Star Wars. However, as of late, Disney board members, including Bob Iger, the CEO, greenlit a plan to create new sequel trilogy movies that are set to be used as a fresh restart to the Skywalker Saga from the regular episodic films. Now, it's noted that this is Bob Iger's plan to reset the Skywalker Saga and give it an entire new story for Luke Skywalker and even Anakin through the use of flashbacks and more. The plan is to make the Mandalorian trilogy that will center on all the Mandoverse characters, where the new trio will be Luke, Ezra, and Ahsoka, this time a trio of all Force-sensitive and Jedi-oriented characters. Now, in a recent interview that Bob Iger gave, and that he took part in, he even hinted at this by stating the following. To answer your question, yes, we are looking at options to the Mandalorian universe and bring it into the cinemas, and how we can find a way to reset that saga to give fans a fresh new slate of films that will involve some of their most beloved characters that we are excited to explore in many of our upcoming shows. But first, before we move on to films, we gotta focus on the actual series. Now, let me just pause here for a second. Now, the thing about the Mandoverse, and we talked about this, of how in the very beginning, what John and Dave wanted to do is that they wanted to make The Mandalorian into a movie in the very beginning stages. Kathleen Kennedy did not want to do that and put that on hold, of how John and Dave wanted to transfer it from being a show and making Mandalorian films instead of just Mandalorian show spin-offs. Basically meaning that originally John and Dave, they wanted Ahsoka to be a movie, they wanted Boba Fett to be a movie, they wanted other spin-offs that are currently in the works to be films. That was the overall idea in the beginning. But now the structured plan is a well-formed trilogy that's based within the Mandoverse, or that post-Return of the Jedi era, that's going to take place after The Mandalorian Season 4 to really kind of reset the Skywalker Saga, giving them the opportunity to bring in full Legend-scale lore and apply it to characters like Luke, and extending the Skywalker bloodline, and just really resetting a lot of things. Now, the thing that a lot of fans are going to probably have a lot of criticism over this is, should they even bother doing this? Well, I think, yes, they should do something like this. And that's exactly what they are moving forward with. I know a lot of fans out there are going to be very unhappy about that to an extent, because there is an argument, there is a debate. Because all of this eventually leads up to the sequels where Luke Skywalker dies the way that he dies in The Last Jedi. Now, we already know that Jon and Dave are working on a remedy to reversing his death by giving him a power from the Wills that brings him back temporarily to take on Palpatine in a new planned post-Episode 9 series, basically, is what's going on. Now, there's a lot of other things that are happening at the same exact time, and how that's all going to be utilized as well. Now, with that being said too, we already know that Jon and Dave are preparing to also make a show called Star Wars Mandalore. It's going to basically be the Avengers of Star Wars on Disney+. It's going to be all post-Mandalorian content, and how it combines characters like Luke, Ezra, Ahsoka, and more, and is considered to be a setup of these planned Mandalorian movies that are going to be used to reset the Skywalker Saga. Now, moving on to the next thing, this is a discussion that he says. He goes on to state, this is a discussion that we have every single day, Bob Iger states. Separate from what Iger said, behind the scenes, this is Lucasfilm's plan to reset the Skywalker Saga by focusing on young Ben Solo, Anakin flashbacks, Luke's journey in his mid to late 20s, and expanding that Skywalker bloodline in new lore taken from Legends. This is set out to involve the introduction of Luke's son as well becoming canon with Mara Jade. Now, obviously, a lot of fans may translate this to Disney getting desperate, or going into panic mode, or pretty much doing damage control. But you know what? I think the fact that we have Jon and Dave at the helm, really, just putting all of this to work, putting it all together day by day, and really making it happen. I think that Jon and Dave are really going to be the saviors of the Star Wars franchise, without a doubt. And it really all comes down to 3 Star Wars shows that's going to set this up. Bad Batch 2, Ahsoka, Mando Season 3. If they all perform well in a very, successful way and in a very consistent way, that's going to basically be their way of convincing fans that Star Wars is turning around, and it's turning the tide, and it's going to see the light at the end of the tunnel by the end of this year. So, this year is by far the most important one after the Book of Boba Fett didn't do so hot, the Kenobi series didn't do so well, so now they're trying to create a better consistent flow of Star Wars shows to build up to that Mandalorian trilogy and more. So overall, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say about this whole situation between movies and TV shows and what's going on with them resetting the Skywalker Saga in a sense by dragging in Legends lore. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.